Senior BJP leader Bhupendra Patel to succeed Vijay Rupani as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. He is to be sworn in tomorrow. Don't lose hope. Chief Minister's talent tells student after a NEET aspirant dies by suicide. A medical aspirant, the son of a farm labourer, was found dead hours before the NEET exam was to take place. A day after a 34-year-old woman died after she was brutally raped in the Mumbai suburb of Sakinaka. Another incident of sexual abuse reported in Ulhasnagar. Two police stations reportedly didn't file the girl's complaint on the grounds that the crime did not take place in their jurisdiction. More details emerge on what caused the Air India Express crash in Kozhikode. Apart from serious pilot error, the AI crash report says unprescribed drugs may have impaired the pilot. The Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister sets the tone for next year's state elections with a blatant communal remark claiming that Muslims ate up all the rations meant for Hindus. And after a Kolkata flyover features in the UP Chief Minister's development advertisements, the Trinamool is in splits. The newspaper apologizes, claims they made the inadvertent mistake. Senior BJP leader Bhupendra Patel, known to be a protege of the former Chief Minister Anandiben Patel, will succeed Vijay Rupani as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Now, while he was elected the leader of the legislative party after a meeting unanimously, it is believed really that he is the choice of the Prime Minister and the Home Minister Amit Shah. Mr. Rupani, who was present at the occasion, endorsed the new Chief Minister, saying the party will successfully contest the polls under his leadership. Elections in Gujarat are due next year.
Meet Bhupendra Patel, a first-time MLA who will now be the Chief Minister of Gujarat. A protege of former Chief Minister and current UP Governor Anandiben Patel, he belongs to the Patel community, a key group when it comes to caste equations in Gujarat. But he was a surprise choice. In his first press conference, he made it clear that he intends to work with the party setup. His predecessor, Vijay Rupani, shared a frosty relationship with the state president of BJP, C.R. Patil.
मैं सबसे पहले माननीय नरेंद्र भाई, माननीय नड्डा जी और अमित भाई शाह साहब का तहे दिल से आभार मानना चाहता हूं। विकास के जो काम बाकी है वो आगे बढ़ाएंगे और साथ में संगठन को साथ में लेके आगे बढ़ाएंगे।
हमारे शीर्ष नेतृत्व ने ये जो निर्णय लिया है, भूपेंद्र भाई सक्षम है और आने वाले चुनाव उनके नेतृत्व में अवश्य भारतीय जनता पार्टी अच्छी तरह से जीतेगी।
Soon after his election as legislature party leader, Bhupendra Patel headed to the Raj Bhavan to stake claim. Since Vijay Rupani's sudden resignation on Saturday, several names were doing the rounds, right until the name of Bhupendra Patel was proposed by his predecessor. The MLAs electing him as their leader was a formality. Amit Shah congratulated him after the decision. While Patel is a first-time MLA, he does have administrative experience. He's worked in the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation and Ahmedabad Urban Development Authority.
In selecting Mr. Bhupendra Patel as the next Chief Minister of Gujarat, the BJP has reiterated two things. One, Mr. Amit Shah and Mr. Narendra Modi are still directly in charge of what happens in Gujarat. And two, the BJP still has to depend on caste equations in the state to win elections convincingly, even though the party denies it. In Gandhinagar with camera person Rajendra Dhayalkar, Saurabh Gupta, NDTV.
And a 19-year-old medical aspirant died by suicide in Tamil Nadu, Salem district ahead of the medical entrance exam NEET, after which Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has assured students that a bill against the NEET will be brought out on Monday. Meanwhile, several in the national capital missed the exam due to last-minute changes in the testing centres and due to waterlogged streets.
19-year-old Dhanush from Tamil Nadu's Salem district died by suicide hours before the NEET medical entrance exam today. The son of a farm labourer, he had attempted the extremely competitive exam twice before, but he could not clear it. Tamil Nadu had abolished the exam for 10 years, saying that it favours the affluent who can afford private coaching. The DMK government will again table a bill against it tomorrow.
It is with profound grief that NEET is still being here, and law is going to be introduced in the assembly tomorrow.
The union government and courts have refused to postpone the exam or even allow candidates to choose an exam center more convenient for them. Despite this, the testing agency changed many student centers last minute. Dr. Neha Agarwal has been studying for the postgraduate NEET for the past 2 years while on COVID duty. All it took for her to miss her chance was Delhi's freak weather yesterday. She, like many others, waded through severe waterlogging only to be denied entry because she was a few minutes late.
Someone was there at the center, inside, on the opposite side of the gate, and so said, "Sir, I have done 1 year COVID duty day and night. Please consider this." Then that person says, "To kya hua? COVID duty ki hai to." In this highly competitive environment, people are doing suicides.
With Sam Daniel in Tamil Nadu and Gauri Prasad, Meher Pandey for NDTV.
And a year after 21 people were killed in the crash involving a Boeing 737 aircraft in Kozhikode, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, or AAIB, has released its final investigation report into this deadly crash. Vishnu Som pored over this 250-page report, and here are some of its troubling findings.
The probable cause of the accidents was the non-adherence to standard operating procedures by the pilot, wherein he continued an unstabilized approach and landed beyond the touchdown zone halfway down the runway, despite a go-around call by the other pilot, which warranted a mandatory go-around, and the failure of the other pilot to take over controls and execute a go-around. Now, what exactly does this mean? Well, this means that the pilot who was flying the aircraft, an experienced commander, failed to adhere to a basic warning. Instead of aborting his landing, he chose to go ahead and touch down on a wet runway in heavy wind and rain. In fact, the report says the pilot in command had vast experience at landing at Kozhikode under similar weather conditions. This experience might have led to overconfidence, leading to complacency and a state of reduced conscious attention that would have seriously affected his actions, making decision-making possibly problematic. Worryingly, the report says the pilot was on medication which may have affected his judgment. It says, and I quote, "The pilot in command was taking multiple unprescribed anti-diabetic drugs that could have probably caused subtle cognitive deficits due to mild hypoglycemia." Now, the role of air traffic control has also been criticized. They apparently provided inaccurate information about the poor weather conditions at the time. The report says prevailing surface winds were much stronger than the winds reported by ATC. The digital flight data recorder of the aircraft, analysis of that confirms tailwinds of 16 knots when the aircraft was approximately 30 feet over the runway. Now, these tailwinds would have pushed the aircraft down the length of the runway. In fact, that's exactly what happened. The aircraft floated without touching down. When it did touch down, it was too late to stop safely. Finally, the role of the management of the airline has been criticized. The report says the actions and decisions of the pilot in command were steered by a misplaced motivation to land back at Kozhikode to operate the next day morning. The unavailability of sufficient numbers of captains at Kozhikode was the result of faulty Air India Express human resources policy. Now, for the families of those who have lost the lives of those they love, this series of failures simply unacceptable.
My sister Sahira Banu and her 3 kids were traveling in that flight. and my sister and her younger child lost their lives. Inquiry report stated that the wrong decision by the pilot caused the accident. It also blamed the co-pilot's lack of assertiveness and the poor crew scheduling policy of the airline. The Union Ministry also liable to answer the situation as Air India Express Limited comes under the Civil Aviation Department. It is quite sad to say still Union government didn't give any solution to any of the victims.
7 members from my family were travelling in this particular ill-fated flight, and they all were seriously injured, and now they are coming back to their normal life. As per the report, the accident was caused due to the non-adherence of SOP by the captain, and also he ignored the go-around call by the first officer, and the particular flight was part of the Vande Bharat mission. I would say that Air India Express and Union government is equally responsible for this incident.
And smarting after a day of ridicule over a goofed up newspaper advertisement, the Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister has set the tone for next year's state elections with a blatantly communal remark.
राशन मिल रहा होगा ना आप लोगों को? राशन मिल रहा है राशन। क्या ये राशन 2017 के पहले भी मिलता था? क्योंकि तब तो अब्बा जान कहने वाले राशन हजम कर जाते थे।
And Chief Minister Adityanath has also attacked the Congress in a tweet in Hindi, calling the party the creator of terrorism in the country, saying there's no need to tolerate people who hurt the country. If there is BJP, there is respect for everyone, and there is, as he puts it, respect for faith. Meanwhile, the Trinamool Congress leaders are calling out a front-page newspaper advertisement by the UP government, which was titled "Transforming Uttar Pradesh" under Chief Minister Adityanath, except that the picture shown in this advertisement was of the famous Maha flyover in Kolkata. And of course, the Trinamool leaders have been quick to jump onto this. Mamata Banerjee's nephew, Abhishek Banerjee, the Trinamool leader, tweeted first, "Transforming UP for Chief Minister Adityanath means stealing images from infrastructure seen in Bengal and using them as their own. Looks like the quote-unquote double-engine model has miserably failed in BJP's strongest state and now stands exposed." Mukul Roy also tweeted saying Prime Minister Modi is so helpless to save his party that other than changing chief ministers, he's also had to resort to using pictures of growth and infrastructure seen under Mamata Banerjee's leadership as their own.
You can see him there, who changed his name to Yogi Adityanath, is very happily and proudly showing us the flyover in Calcutta as a sign of development in Bengal. At least now you are acknowledging, Mr. Ajay Bisht, that India's 3-time Chief Minister has done great work, and it's good that imitation is the best form of flattery.
Meanwhile, the newspaper in which these advertisements are featured has apologized, claiming that they made the inadvertent mistake, saying that the wrong image produced by the marketing department, that the wrong image was produced by their marketing department, the marketing department of the newspaper. But this goof up has, however, resulted in a flood of memes on social media. Here's a look. News from around the country now, a day after a 34-year-old woman died after she was brutally raped in the Mumbai suburb of Sakinaka. Another incident of sexual abuse has been reported in Maharashtra, this time in Ulhasnagar. A 15-year-old girl was raped in a railway accommodation. A case has been registered under sections of the IPC and the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, or POSCO. The accused has been arrested, but there are also reports that 2 police stations at least did not file this child's complaint right away over confusion about whose jurisdiction this case fell under. And barring the Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, almost all the important leaders of Bihar's politics attended the first death anniversary function of the former Union Minister Ramvilas Paswan, although Nitish Kumar's absence was certain, as he even refused to grant an audience to the now Lok Janshakti president and the political heir Chirag Paswan despite his repeated requests for an appointment. The BJP and the RJD were present in full strength.
देखिए उनका अपना व्यक्तिगत फैसला है, कोई जबरदस्ती तो कर नहीं सकता, लेकिन बड़े हैं हम लोगों से, चिराग जी से भी बड़े हैं, हमसे भी बड़े हैं, बुजुर्ग हैं, बिहार के 15 साल तक मुख्यमंत्री रहे और चाचा जैसे हम लोगों के, लेकिन एक शिष्टाचार जो है वो दिखना चाहिए था।
धन्यवाद करता हूं, आज मेरे नेता को, मेरे पिताजी को श्रद्धांजलि देने पहुंचे हैं। दलगत राजनीति से उठकर, तमाम तरीके की बातों से उठकर आज जो पारिवारिक संबंध हम दोनों के पिता ने कहीं ना कहीं जिसकी नींव रखी थी, दोनों सिर्फ सहयोगी ही नहीं, एक साथी की तरह, एक भाई की तरह दोनों साथ रहे। बचपन हम लोग को याद है किस तरीके से जब हमारे पिता एक दूसरे के साथ होते थे, तो उस कड़ी को आगे बढ़ाने का काम तेजस्वी जी ने किया। मैं धन्यवाद करता हूँ, इनके परिवार का धन्यवाद करता हूँ कि आए।
And the Chief Justice of India was the chief guest at an event to mark the 22nd Foundation Day of the Vivekananda Institute of Human Excellence in Hyderabad and the 120th anniversary of the historic Chicago address of Swami Vivekananda. And he reminded us of the address there where Swami Vivekananda propagated the idea of tolerance and universal acceptance.
Swami Vivekananda in his address propagated the idea of tolerance and universal acceptance. Today, in contemporary India, to pay heed to the words spoken by Swami Vivekananda as early as in 1893. He was prophetic. Long before the painful churning that took place in the subcontinent during the freedom struggle, resulting in framing of an egalitarian constitution of India, he advocated secularism as if he foresaw the events to unfold. He firmly believed that the true essence of religion was the common good and tolerance. Religion should be above superstitions and rigidity.